Hey dolls, here's chapter 10, part B. The path through the paths of silver ice twisted and turned past the openings of other dragons' caves. Most of the rocks around the caves had scorched marks, and Kimmerine and Alienora didn't see much growing amongst them. At this rate, we'll have to go nearly all the way to the enchanted forest to find any grass, much less herbs, Alienora complained. Wait a minute, Kimmerine said. Look over there, through the crack in the rocks. Doesn't that look like something green? It is St. Patrick's Day. Well, it was yesterday. Alienora's eyes followed Kimmerine's pointing finger. Yes, she said without enthusiasm. It looks green. The rock Kimmerine had indicated was a large boulder at the bottom of a steep slope. The slope was covered with gravel and looked as if it would be impossible to climb down without skinning a knee. The boulder itself was in two pieces, with just enough space between them for someone to squeeze through. Come on, let's get a better look, said Kimmerine. She walked to the edge of the slope and wrapped her skirts tightly around her legs. Then she sat down with her basket in her lap and slid down the slope, raising an enormous cloud of dust and sounding like an avalanche in the process. The dust was so thick that she could hardly see, and when she tried to call to Alienora, she coughed so hard that she could barely speak. Kimmerine, are you all right? It's just the dust, Kimmerine said in a muffled voice. She'd taken out her handkerchief and put it over her mouth. It wasn't perfect, but it helped a great deal. Come on, it's your turn. Are you sure we shouldn't just go around? Stop stalling, it's not that bad. That's what you say, Alienora muttered. But she wrapped her skirts around her, clutched her basket, and slid down the slope. She made even more noise than Kimmerine had. Crawling through the split boulder was easier than they expected. The crevice was wider than it had looked. From the path, and the bottom of the crack was so full of dust and gravel and dead leaves that it was almost flat. Kimmerine and Alienora had to walk single file. There were one or two spots where they had to turn sideways in order to get through, but it wasn't really difficult. On the other side of the boulder, the two girls found a lush green valley. A squirrel, which had been sunning itself on a ledge near the entrance, leaped from a small tree as Kimmerine and Alienora appeared. My goodness, Alienora said, looking around with wide eyes. This place looks as if no one but us has ever been here before. There aren't even any scorch marks on the rocks. Kimmerine blinked. Alienora was right. It was beautiful, and no dragon fire had touched it. That's odd, Kimmerine commented. Why? Alienora asked. Those mountains aren't tall enough to keep dragons from flying over, and they're right in the middle of the dragon's territory. So why haven't the dragons been here? They usually keep a close eye on everything that belongs to them. Maybe they have been here, but they never found anything to breathe fire at? Well, I'm going to ask Azul about it when I get back, Kimmerine said, as she waded into the grass. Why don't you take that side, and I'll look over here. We'll cover more ground that way. First, you'd better show me what I'm looking for, Alienora said apologetically. I'm afraid I couldn't tell feverfew from carrots if there was a dragon chasing me and my life depended on it. Kimmerine nodded, and they started off. They had not gone far when she saw a patch of the white button-shaped flower she was looking for. Here, she said. This is feverfew. The younger plants are the best, the ones that haven't blossomed yet. Alienora studied the leaves. I think I'll recognize it now. They cut some of the plants, leaving those that were blooming. You find the next patch, Kimmerine said. Let's try over there, Alienora said, pointing. I think this should be enough, Kimmerine said at last, unless you think... Kimmerine! Alienora hissed. There's someone behind that bush. Kimmerine turned. A dark line snaked through the grass where something large had bent and broken the plants in passing. You're right, she said, and started forward. She's really brave. Alienora hung back, still holding Kimmerine's arm. You're not going to go look, are you? How else are we going to find out who it is? Kimmerine asked reasonably. She shook off Alienora's hand. Quietly, she walked over to the clump of bushes and peered around it. Alienora followed with evident reluctance. A man in blue and brown silk robes was crouched on the other side of the bush with his back toward Kimmerine. He was stuffing saw-edged purple leaves into a small linen bag. The size of Kimmerine's hand. His hair was brown, and on the ground beside him lay a long, polished staff. "Antrel?" Kimmerine said in surprise. The man snatched up his staff and straightened as if a bee had just stung him. It was indeed Antrel, and he did not look pleased at all to see her. "Princess Kimmerine, what brings you here?" "I was about to ask you the same thing," Kimmerine said. "Wizards go where they wish, answering to no one," Antrel said, waving his hand freely. "Maybe outside the Mountains of Mourning they do, but around here they have to check with the dragons first," Kimmerine said. She's so sassy, huh, guys? "You know nothing of the matter," Antrel said. "Kimmerine," Alienore's tone was doubtful. "You know this person?" "I'm sorry, I should have introduced you. This is Antrel, one of the wizards I told you about." This is Princess Alienora of the Duchy of Tor-on-Marsh. At the moment, she's the princess of the dragon Warog. Alienora curtsied, murmuring something polite and inaudible. "Warog's princess? Whoa, that's all right then, though he really shouldn't have sent you here." "But Warog didn't." "Ow," said Alienora. The ow was because Kimmerine had hastily kicked her ankle to keep her from telling Antrel too much. "Didn't what?" Antrel asked. "Didn't know you were going to be here," Kimmerine said. "Well, of course he didn't know. That's the whole point after all." Kimmerine would have very much liked to ask him what the point was. "I don't understand," she said instead. "Of course not." "But it doesn't matter," Antrel said. "I'm not annoyed with you." "Oh, I'm so glad," Kimmerine murmured. Antrel gave her an oily smile, like, "In fact, there's no need for you to tell Warog that we even met here." "I wouldn't dream of it," Kimmerine said. "Excellent. Then may I escort the two of you back to the path?" "But we can't leave yet," Kimmerine said. "We haven't picked any cornflowers or daisies." Behind her, she heard Alienor making a smothered choking noise as if she were trying very hard not to laugh. "Daisies," Antrel said. "Do you want to stay and pick daisies?" Kimmerine nodded. "And cornflowers and flax and all sorts of things. They'll look so pretty in a bowl of water in the kitchen." "I'm sure you're right," Antrel said. "Perhaps I could help you," he said reluctantly. "Oh, we wouldn't dream of keeping you," Kimmerine said. Antrel was clearly reluctant to leave the two girls. But Kimmerine did not give him much choice. After another minute or so of conversation, the wizard was forced to go. He did not use a vanishing spell, but trudged away on foot. Kimmerine watched him until he was out of sight. "That's a relief," Alienor said. "Why did you insist on staying when it was so obvious that he wanted us to leave? I was afraid he was going to turn us into toads or something." "I wanted to see what he was up to," Kimmerine said. "And I don't think Antrel is a very good wizard. He probably couldn't manage anything worse than a squirrel." Alienor did not appear to find this very reassuring. Kimmerine checked to make sure Antrel was out of sight, then went over to the place where he had been. At first, she didn't notice anything unusual. Then she saw a purplish plant oozing sap from the places where several of its spiky sawtooth leaves had been broken off. "Look at this." "What is it?" "I don't know," Kimmerine said. "I saw a couple of other plants like this while we were picking feverfew, but I thought they were just weeds. Maybe it is a weed. A wizard couldn't sneak into the dragon section of the Mountains of Mourning just to pick weeds. They don't even use herbs to cast spells, so what does Antrel want with this prickly-looking thing?" Alienor shrugged. Maybe he needs it for something he can't do with magic. "I wonder what that would be." Kimmerine reached out and carefully broke off a spray of leaves. "Let's see if we can find out whether he picked anything else." Antrel had left a dark trail of bent and broken plants to mark the way he had come. His path was easy to follow. "I don't think there's anything to find," Alienor said, "and it's getting awfully warm. Have you noticed that there aren't any of those purple plants along here? I'll bet that was all he wanted." "Then let's leave before the wizard thinks to circle around to check on what we're doing," Alienor urged. Kimmerine doubted that Antrel would think of doing such a thing, but she nodded agreement, and the two girls left the valley. Eleanor was quiet and thoughtful for most of the walk back to Kazul's cave. Kimmerine was grateful for her silence. She had a lot to think about. From what Aunt Terrell had said, it seemed likely that Warog was helping the wizard somehow, or at least that he had known what Aunt Terrell was looking for in the valley. Kimberly found it difficult to imagine a dragon helping a wizard, but she couldn't say with certainty that it was impossible. And if Warog was involved, with Aunt Terrell and Zeminar, it might explain why he had been so touchy lately. And that, my friends, is Chapter 10, Part B. Have an awesome day. I miss you guys so much, and I love you all. All right, go have fun. Talk to you guys later. Bye. I'm really proud of you guys. Also, keep it up. If you need me, you know where.